Hello everyone, this is Ken Hardison. Today we have a guest blogger, Mr. Frankie Finn, who is the marketing director of Pilma. And Frankie has a rich background in internet SEO and has helped hundreds of lawyers in the United States and Canada get more cases online. So here's a question that I see all the time. Lawyers ask us this all the time, Frankie. What should I be doing to get cases online? Should I do PPC? So expensive, or should I be buying leads, or should I just do SEO? What should I be doing?
Well, Ken, it's one of those things, especially if you're like a smaller practice and you've got a limited budget, and it's not like you can just throw massive amounts of money at the wall and you've got to make it work, or, you're not going to get cases. Where do you start? Which one should you be doing? And what I find, it's very often, it's the wrong question to be asking, because it's not in which one you should be doing it, but it's in the details of how you do it. The devil's in the details. And so the three big things that I see people get wrong is they forget that the internet is just a media that connects to people. And the more you understand your potential client on the other side, the easier the internet works for you. And what you'll find is when you have the right principles in place, you can make PPC work, you can make SEO work, you can make Facebook work all at the same time, because you're really kind of just doing the same thing with all of them. And so the first mistake that I see kind of done religiously is targeting. And you've seen some of the slides I do where, and these are people paying PPC companies probably thousands of dollars a month to manage it. I just go and search in my local area for, I did a search for corporate lawyers the other day in Detroit, and almost 80% of the people on the first page shouldn't have been there. They were divorce lawyers, they were PI attorneys, they were bankruptcy attorneys, but what they weren't was corporate attorneys. And so, you dramatically raise your cost if you don't put a great deal of thought of really just honing into the right people. And one of the things that really amazed me about you when I first met you is, you had all these strategies for getting cases less than $50, which is kind of mind-blowing, especially for people in big personal injury markets where it might cost them $50 just to get a single click on Google. So when you put a great deal of thought into the targeting, it naturally will recommend the media for you. So instead of saying I should be doing pay-per-click, I should be doing AVO, like the perfect example, say you're trying to attract more motorcycle cases. Well, to me, one of the things I know is that on Facebook, I can target people who like the local Harley-Davidson group. So when I know that I can get in front of people who are known motorcycle drivers, that to me is more valuable. So I would advertise on Facebook, but it's not because, Facebook's the best way to advertise. It's just the best way I can think of getting in front of motorcycle people. And of course, this works offline too, right? I mean, if you actually had some sort of advertisement at the Harley-Davidson club, those would be a lot of the kind of people you're trying to reach. So you want to put a great deal of thought into getting in front of the right people. And so, depending on where you're at, sometimes somebody's already done the work for you in the targeting, like, personal injury. If somebody's injured, they've gone to see a doctor. They've probably gone to an auto body mechanic. And again, I would probably use Facebook for that, because based on their behavior, they probably just liked that auto body mechanic, 3 days ago. And why did they like an auto body mechanic? Well, because their car was, smashed to smithereens, right? So if you give a great deal of thought to the targeting, immediately all your costs are going to go down, and you're going to find your advertising just being more effective. Because I see this done religiously, where a lot of times they'll try and advertise and they don't get in front of the right people in the first place. So it doesn't really matter what happens next, because they're the wrong types of clients. Like, if you're PI and you're not getting in front of injured people, then nothing you say is really going to matter, because they're not the right people. Second big thing I see wrong over and over is a message that is really just kind of same as everybody else. I mean, you mentioned how important a unique, kind of what makes you unique. What's your unique selling proposition? Because if you're going to run advertising that is basically the same as what you see the TV lawyers doing, which is, have you been injured in an accident? Well, call me and I'll fight hard for you. What happens is, on the internet in particular, is that's so much harder to make work, because they've heard that 100 times. That's what everybody's telling. Everybody's telling them they're a fighter. Everybody's telling them they're experienced. Everybody's telling them they're going to get results. And so sometimes it's just infinitely easier if you understand the conversation the prospect's already having, right? A potential client is already having a conversation, and they're having questions like, is the insurance company screwing me? Am I doing this right? How do I know if I can handle it myself? And those are the things they're wondering, and it's a lot easier to start the conversation in what they're thinking about than trying to even really brag about your firm at all. And so is really the second big thing is honing in on a message that's for somebody. So in the example of motorcycle accidents, 3 things you should know if you've been injured in a motorcycle accident. Naturally, that gears itself towards the kind of person we're trying to reach. And then the third thing that, you're such a huge fan of as well as I am is the education-based marketing and having a follow-up. And so that means not always trying to make, the client call the very first time, because most people just aren't going to do that. And
That's correct.
So I mean, like if you think about if you had to buy a house, would you just walk out the door and buy the first house? Probably not. You'd have a pretty extensive research process, and we forget that's how people choose a lawyer. And so simply having a follow-up process, which can be done 2 ways very easily on the internet. The first is with retargeting, which is really, really cheap. And retargeting is, for lack of a better term, is digitally stalking people. It's really cheap to do, which means somebody comes to your website and for whatever reason they didn't call you, that person is still qualified. Bob was injured in an accident. He looks at 5 lawyers, and as he does, dinner's made, the phone rings, he closes all those websites. That doesn't mean Bob's not a good potential client. That just means Bob was busy with life. And so one of the best things we can do is have little cheap retargeting ads to get right back in front of Bob and to continue that dialogue and really start beginning a relationship. And then, if you have some sort of free report or a book, it lends itself naturally to a follow-up where you can start then giving them valuable education. What should they know first? What mistakes are people making? Who's not telling them the truth, like at the insurance company? And again, engaging in that dialogue they're already having. In fact, the most valuable marketing you already have is already happening at your office, and that's when they call your intake person, the first 3 questions you hear religiously over and over that they ask again is the best place to start your marketing, because they're already telling you what they really want to know. And most lawyers are not answering that question because they're so busy trying to brag about their firm. And so, that stuff works, but usually it only works when you have a massive budget to be everywhere. And if you're on a shoestring budget, it's much, much better to have a more targeted, meaningful message. And so when you do those 3 things in succession, where you put a great deal of thought into getting in front of the right people, you have a message that's written for them, and you have strategic follow-up, what you'll find is, I've seen 10, 20 times improvement in response overnight, because now we're not wasting all that expense trying to reach people who were never qualified in the first place. We're saying something meaningful for them, and we're also accounting for the fact that they don't make quick decisions. So the original question, which one should I use? The answer depends on who are you trying to reach, and when you know that, where are they going before and after? Then the message is, what are they asking already? What's the conversation that potential client has, and then how do you follow up with them? And when you do that, the media will kind of reveal itself where you should go to first. So I don't think you should have a predisposed idea of, I should be doing YouTube, I should be doing pay-per-click, I should be doing Avo. That's the surest way to fail, because what I see is, they copy the same failing message and strategy, and they just change media, but those media all have people in common. So the internet is not a great mystery when you realize that. It's just a matter of understanding how people that you're trying to reach decide, and then getting in front of them in the right way. Does that kind of make sense as I explained it?
Absolutely. Thank you.